Hello, hello, hello. This is Attorney Mike Gravel coming to you from Chicago. As usual, I busted out the ascot. How's the volume, by the way? Last time, in the last video, it was really bad, and now I know why. It's Alita over at Legal Bites. She turned my volume down, and then my StreamYard kept it down. But whatever, it doesn't matter. I've got a super fun clip today. It is from Old Squishy Gardner. He had a great appearance. A lot of you have seen it. Do not worry, Old Squishy Gardner and I are good. We're good. I have express written consent to do this video. But we've got a pro say she's appealing her traffic ticket. It's so awful. We need to watch it together. Even though you've seen it, it's that kind of good. So let's get in there.
And my last case is City of Saline versus Lisa DeHart.
Jesse O'Jack, City of Saline.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Can you state your name?
My name is Lisa DeHart.
Okay. And are we proceeding to a formal hearing?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe this is Ms. DeHart's appeal of a finding at the informal hearing, and the city would call Office of Belknap.
Just give me 1 second. My notebook. Any opening statements from either party? Mr. Ojak.
No opening statement.
Ms. DeHart, is there anything you'd like to say for an opening statement?
Here's that paper.
I am asking that you, this is an appeal on a case. I just want to make sure you have a photo with you.
Ma'am, that's not the appropriate way to enter evidence.
I'm sorry.
So
Okay.
you did enter it.
Okay. You should have a copy of it is what I'm saying. I'm sorry. So what I'm trying
I don't
to...
have any, ma'am, I don't have anything.
Oh,
Well, this is fantastic all the way through. Okay, so she lost her traffic court with the magistrate because, well, she was guilty of sin. And so she appeals it and apparently goes to this judge. This judge is excellent. And by the way, I might add, she's a cutie. But she is so funny. She handles this really well in terms of law the whole time. But watching her, she never loses it, but she is restraining herself the entire hearing. It's so comical.
Okay.
at the time of the appeal.
Okay. At the time that I made the appeal, I made this photo, and I have others available, and they received it at the court, and they said that it would be with the paperwork. So I can either show it to you now, but what I'm trying to let you know.
No, prior to an appeal, you have to make it part of the record and submit it to the court ahead of time and submit it to opposing counsel. None of this has happened because she doesn't know the procedure or the rules of evidence. That's not shocking, but it's just sad to watch her, go through that. The judge is not having this. The photo's not in evidence. The end.
Is that I'm asking for an appeal on the magistrate's ruling.
The appeal.
I'm asking for an appeal. This is the appeal. Yes, you filed for an appeal, and we are currently in the middle of conducting that hearing right now. You're not asking for some future event. Your life is now.
Right. So I would like you to, I don't know the right word, that I received a
No, you don't.
lane violation. I'm sorry. I wrote it down so I can try it. Is it okay that I read some of this? Okay.
Totally fine, ma'am. I just want to make sure you understand you have appealed this case. This is your appeal right now. So we're having another formal hearing right now in front of me. Okay. So just like your other hearing.
Okay. So that I received an impeding traffic ticket for improper lane use for driving straight in a right turn only at Michigan and Riverside, November of 2021. I tried to explain to the magistrate at the last Zoom that the lane was not marked right turn only, and she continued to say that it was. I did not want to continue to argue with the magistrate, and when we left the
I like how she characterizes that. I didn't want to continue to argue with the magistrate. No, it was over. You lost. You didn't have the option to continue to argue with the magistrate.
Court, we went back to the intersection, took a picture, and turned this in to the court.
Ma'am, can you
Yeah, it's always a good time to gather evidence after you lost the hearing. That's the perfect time to start.
please put that down?
Yes.
Oh, man.
So I submitted evidence to prove that the lane is not marked as a right turn only lane, which is
Except you didn't submit any evidence.
what I got my ticket for. And I paid the fine, and they said that I could ask for an appeal, and that I would get the sorry, I have a little coach husband next to me, so
I know, and we can
apologize
hear him.
for
If he
that.
could please not, we can pick
Yeah,
him. So
I very much have to apologize for that, because he does that. I'm really sorry for that. You deserve more respect than that, so I apologize. So the appeal is just that. I wanted to appeal the judgment, and that I submitted evidence that clearly shows that this is not a right turn.
Okay, she's aware of the postural history. She just told it to you. You're spitting it back wrong, and you still haven't submitted evidence.
Only, and I don't know what, I won't pick up the paper again because you told me not to, but it is definitely it's marked clearly that the way I drove was fine. I guess is the best way for me to say that to you. I don't know if it's at Riverside and US 12.
thank you. Mr. Ojak, do you have any witnesses for the people?
Call Officer Belknap.
Okay. Officer Belknap, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, ma'am.
Lower your hand, state and spell your name for the record, please.
I'm Officer John Belknap, JOHNBELKNAP, for the city of Saline.
And you're employed as a police officer by the city. Can you briefly tell us your history as a police officer?
I've been with the city of Saline for about 8 years. Before that, I was a sergeant at Pittsfield Township Police. I retired from there in 2013 and started with the city of Saline in 2014.
And you were on duty on November 10th of 2021?
I was.
Approximately 7:48 in the morning?
I was.
And you were in the area, at least it's the area of Michigan Ave and Whitlock?
I was, sir.
And that's in the city of Saline, Washington County, state of Michigan?
It is.
Were you there randomly, or were you there for a certain purpose?
I was there for a certain purpose, sir.
And what was that purpose? Why were you there?
We had received, we being dispatch at Saline Police, had received 2 calls from motorists west of the city on Michigan Avenue complaining about a green Mercury Villager, Ford Windstar van that was eastbound on Michigan coming towards the city. The complaints were that it was passing in no passing zones, and that people were having to go off the road to avoid or to give room for oncoming traffic to.
Oh, I missed this the first time through. She actually got called in by other drivers, and it's a green minivan, which is just perfect.
To pass. And so I was sitting at Whitlock specifically looking for that. I do have an emailed statement from one of the witnesses, but I'm not sure that's really appropriate or admissible, since these are all issues that happened outside of the city.
So I was just looking for the reason you were there. And did you see that vehicle at that location at some point after you waited?
I did.
And can you tell us what you observed?
I can. I had pulled into the mobile station and drove around behind it. So I was on the east side of the mobile station, on the easternmost drive of the mobile station, which is pretty much near Whitlock Drive. And as I got into position to watch, I saw the green van that I ended up stopping was in the right-hand lane coming down the hill from Austin Road. Austin is also Riverview that goes to the south, Austin Road. The vehicle was passing other vehicles that were in the main travel lane, and the vehicle in question merged over fully into the lane as it was passing the first drive of the mobile station. I can give a description. I actually went and measured it out on Google Maps, and I can describe the signage of the road. After you pass Austin Road, about 165 feet later, there is a sign. It's a yellow diamond sign that clearly states that right lane ends. Also at that yellow diamond sign that states right lane ends, the hashed white line that separates two eastbound lanes of traffic ends. About 200 feet past that sign and the end of the hashed white line, there is another yellow diamond sign, and that yellow diamond sign is a graphic that lists a straight line on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side it has a line that curves over to the left that once again indicates that the lane on the right-hand side of the road is ending and should merge over. After that sign, approximately 365 feet, you come to River Oaks Drive. River Oaks Drive is the entrance to the trailer, I'm sorry, not the trailer park, is the entrance to the apartment complex there. After the entrance to the apartment complex, which is River Oaks Drive, the lane starts to noticeably narrow. Where Mrs. DeHart ended up completing the merge over was approximately 290 feet past River Oaks Drive. Additionally, as she was merging over, not only did she do so with apparently not using her signal to merge over, the car and
I use my signal all the time.
Ma'am, you can't make any comments right now.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I forgot.
No problem. Anyways, as she was merging over, she was almost forcing herself between a line of traffic, and the vehicle in front of which she was merging had to slow down. I was able to see that its headlights dipped briefly as she was merging over in front of it. I ended up stopping her quite a bit east of downtown. Took me a little while because traffic's difficult at that time. I stopped her for I guess the most appropriate charge would be the improper passing or the failing to yield as she merged over in front of the car that had to slow down to let her in. And I issued her the ticket for impeding traffic. The ticket was not issued for going straight through at a right turn only at River. That might have been a misunderstanding with the magistrate, but that wasn't what the traffic stop was for, and that wasn't what the ticket was for. The ticket was for continuing in the right turn lane past River Oaks, where the lane had ended, and merging over in other traffic that had to slow down to allow her in.
At the point she entered, how wide was that right-hand lane at that point? Was it a full lane?
No, not at all. The lane starts narrowing significantly right at River Oaks, and she was finishing her merge about 290 feet past River Oaks. There were no white lines delineating two lanes traveling east. Additionally, where she completed the merge, instead of having two lane widths, I'd estimate there was about maybe 1 1/4 to 1/3 lane widths where she completed her merging over.
And you said you were at the mobile station. Where, when she completed her merge, where was she in relation to the mobile station?
There are two driveways to the mobile station, and the first one she came to would have been the west drive to the mobile station. She was completing the merge at the west drive of the mobile station as she was passing the driveway to mobile.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. DeHart, do you have any questions for the officer?
Oh, here's where it gets delicious. This cross-examination is fantastic. It's actually worse than Amber Heard's attorney's cross-examination on these witnesses.
Yes. My question for the officer is that
You were there.
I'm trying to do this correctly, so if I do anything that's wrong, I appreciate when you correct me. Everything
you do is wrong.
So my question for the officer is that I changed my lanes with my, well, that's not for the officer, but I always use my turn indicators when I change my lanes. I guess I'm a little confused about the fact that
Look at the judge's
that
Your Honor,
is
can-
not
this is
at
questions
all,
at this point.
that was,
Ms. DeHart, can you ask questions? Your opportunity to testify. It's your opportunity to ask the officer questions about what he had just testified to.
okay, that this testimony that he is saying now is not what was testified in the previous magistrate court. He's changed his testimony from then.
It's
And
not your
I-
turn to testify. It's your turn to ask him questions, not me.
Yeah, I'm asking,
Answer
okay,
questions.
I'm sorry.
She needs some work on perfecting an impeachment here.
I'm asking him why he's changed his testimony. All of this information is not part of what was at the magistrate. So why did he change this? I do want to know, did he go back and check the lane usage, which is what I was told, that it was improper lane usage because the court magistrate said that the lane was properly
I'm going to object again.
marked.
The officer hasn't had a single question to be able to
Okay,
answer.
I did. Okay, so why did he change his testimony and say that it's not for improper lane use when that's what we did in the previous magistrate? Why is this testimony different than what we talked about in the previous? I was told specifically by the
Ma'am,
magistrate.
one question
repeatedly.
ma'am, one question at a time. Let him answer.
Well, let's start with the problems with this. It assumes facts not in evidence. It's irrelevant. It calls for hearsay as a response and a legal conclusion. But other than that, it's fantastic. Let's carry on.
Okay,
Okay, my testimony in this case is a little more detailed than it would have been in the informal hearing. And the reason for that is, and I actually took measurements on Google Earth and the Washtenaw.org mapping system. That's how I had the exact measurements of the signage, where the road markings were, etc. As far as what you were stopped for, you were stopped for, it could be improper lane use. It could be the fail to yield for merging over. There were a number of violations that would have been appropriate. And I ended up issuing the impeding because that's a 0-point violation.
but I asked you, why did you change your testimony? Because the, what's it called, the informal hearing. So you didn't really answer my question. My question is, why did it change from the lane usage, which the magistrate previously made it very, very clear that this was specifically regarding using the right lane to go through, and that the right lane, she repeatedly said that the right lane is a right turn only lane clearly marked, which it is.
Okay, so here she is testifying again. And the prosecutor, by the way, is really sharp and sees all of these objections. I would do the same thing. You let them hang themselves for a while, and then you just hit them with one big objection, and the judge says, knock it off with everything. It's almost better to let it go on, and he handles it perfectly.
Is not, and I have proven that. So
Your
I
Honor, I'm going to
want
object.
to know
What
why. I
magistrate
just feel
said, I didn't say,
Ms. DeHart, hold on, there's an objection. Mr. Ochoa.
I'm going to object is what the magistrate said or didn't say is not relevant to this case. And indeed, a formal hearing is a complete redo of the trial. It's not really an appeal. It's a complete redo. And this ticket speaks for itself. This is the same ticket in the file that the officer wrote at the time. It says impeding traffic.
Okay, so what he's talking about is the standard of review. Usually on an appeal, that's the first thing you have to talk about is the standard of review. So what he's saying, he didn't say it, but is de novo, which means we're just doing this as if we're doing a do-over, as if the first hearing didn't exist. So it doesn't really matter. They're not giving deference to the prior decision. She's just hearing the evidence fresh.
Improperly.
I'm going to sustain that objection. Ms. DeHart, please move on.
Okay, and this is not an appeal then? Is that what he's saying, telling me now? I was told this was an appeal.
This is your appeal from your informal hearing, ma'am. I
Right.
sustain his objection.
If I could rewind, I would, but you just watch her take the big breath before she responds to some of this stupid. It stuns her, and she's like, okay, and then she proceeds.
Regarding whatever the magistrate said. This is a brand new hearing. I don't have any information about what the magistrate said. So
Where's her picture?
You cannot question him anymore about what the magistrate said.
Oh,
I can't question him what the magistrate said? Is that
That's
what you
what she
just
said.
told me?
No, correct.
Okay.
just ask him if there's.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I guess, is the officer aware that at the intersection of Michigan and Riverview, the lane signage that's posted clearly indicates that there is a left turn lane, there is a straight through lane, and then there is a straight through and right turn lane. Is the officer aware of that?
There are, as you're coming eastbound, I'm assuming you're talking about the eastbound lanes. As you're coming eastbound, there is a left turn lane that goes north onto Austin Road. And then there are two other lanes, the inside lane and the curb lane. And both of those are allowed to go straight through at that point.
Right. And that's what I did. And that's what you testified to. And I clearly, why are you changing your testimony? Are you just trying to keep my money? That just doesn't make sense to me. Why are you doing that?
There we go. There we go. Full Karen. I felt sorry for her prior to this because she's just clueless, and God bless her. She doesn't know anything about anything. And I actually felt sorry for her. But here she turns nasty and really, really shows her nasty side and attacks this officer on a personal level. None of it is going anywhere, but it makes you really lose any sympathy you might have had for her.
That's not appropriate.
Sustained.
I agree with you. It's not appropriate, but I'm very sorry, Your Honor. This is clearly not appropriate either.
I love it. It's not appropriate. I agree with you, Honor. Who sustained the objection against her? That's fabulous.
It's a very, okay. And then I would like to say, I do have a witness.
Miss DeHart, if you have any further questions for Officer Belknap,
No.
we have any further questions for him?
All right. Is Officer Belknap aware that I had someone else in the car?
Yes, you had your husband, and he made it very clear that he worked for a police department, and I felt that he was actually trying to get you some courtesy for that. And in fact, that's perhaps why I issued the impeding traffic and not the traffic violation with the points on it.
Can I talk?
And he was making himself aware because of a courtesy to other police officers. And he made it very clear.
Ma'am, you cannot testify right now. And everything you're saying, I am not taking into evidence. You have
Okay, I'm very sorry, Your Honor.
Ma'am, it's my turn to speak.
Okay.
Opportunity to cross-examine the officer. If you have any questions for him, you may ask him questions, but your questions are not evidence. So you do not go off on all these other things that the magistrate was talking about because I'm not taking note of any of that. Those are not evidence, those are just questions. What the officer is saying is the evidence that I'm going to take into account. So if you have any further questions that you would like to ask the officer, please do so.
Thank you. Then another question that I have is that the officer was not the only one in attendance. And could he please tell me, there was his supervisor or whatever their ranking is, was also there. And
what is the question, ma'am? You're testifying again. Can you please ask the officer a question?
Okay, so what was the other officer there for, other than him? Yeah. And was he, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry because I'm saying sorry too much and I'm not used to court proceedings. No so kidding. I apologize for all of that. So to form my question is, was Officer Belknap told to write me a ticket by his superiors?
No, absolutely I was not. That was my supervisor. That was Sergeant Andy Hartwig. The reason he came out to back me up was because I was making a traffic stop on a vehicle that we received at least 2 calls of complaining about some reckless driving. And so he came out to back me up in case I needed it. And in this case, I didn't.
If you're waiting for me, I just feel used here. I'm not going to try to fight a court system that does this. I would like to know why you told me that I should go around and tell other people that the Celine officer is a jerk. And I told you that is not something respectful that I would ever do. My husband, it's not professional, and I want to know why you felt that was
not relevant
necessary.
to anything to this case.
Sustained.
How? Oh, all right.
May I,
I know. I'm sorry.
may
It's all a
I,
joke.
may I address it anyways, Your Honor?
No, there wasn't a question
Right.
for you to respond to.
Okay.
It was why he would feel that was necessary to do that. That was my question. Why did you tell me that?
Okay.
This is funny. First of all, I like what she said, I feel used, which is like, what? I can't deal with a court that does this. What? Conduct a fair hearing and get another appeal when you're clearly guilty? Oh, but then she asked this BS question. Judge sustains the objection. He wants to answer anyway. She says, no, there's no pending question. Absolutely correct. Then she just asked the same question again. Of course, the prosecutor could object, but both the prosecutor and the judge just give up and be like, these people want to have this conversation. We'll just let it happen, and then we'll carry on with our lives.
Here's the thing. In my professional life and my personal life, I am rather lighthearted and self-deprecating. And when I give people tickets to soften the blow and to make them understand that I'm a normal person and not a robot of a cop, I'll often say, hey, here's a citation. In order to take care of this, you can either go online, or if you need to set a date, call the court, set a date, and tell them some nasty cop from Celine gave you a ticket and set a court date. I do that in humor. I don't do that as an insult to other police officers. I don't do that as an insult to your husband who's next to you.
The Karen-ness of that is off the charts. To pretend that you misperceive that as an actual slight or something disrespectful is disingenuous, bordering on what? Spurious, as our man would say. It's just a lie. She doesn't think any of that. She's just grasping at straws, but she goes personal and dirty, and it bothers me.
I do that because I find that if I make fun of myself, which I'm very comfortable doing, there's a lot of material there. If I make fun of myself and make it light, that a lot of times people accept it a lot better, and they understand that I'm a real person, and I'm not a robot. And that just seems to kind of, in most cases, make the whole situation a little easier on everybody. And that's why I said those things.
All right. And are you aware that I submitted photos to the courts?
No, I am not.
So is there something we can, I maybe would like to revisit this again, because the courts did not receive, I have a copy that said they received it, and none of it's with the file. And I just feel really...
Ma'am, if you
like
have
Shanghai,
evidence that you would like to use, then you can certainly try to admit that evidence through a witness. You can't just hand me documents.
Right. You mean
Yeah, that's great. She's going to lay some good foundations here. You just wait.
like the court? As a witness, submit documents through a witness, which would be
Through their
the court.
testimony.
Okay, well, so I can have a witness?
Do you have any further questions for this witness?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Mr. Ojak, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Oh, this gets
Any
better.
further witnesses for the people?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Miss,
May I have a witness?
let me finish. Miss
I'm
DeHart,
sorry.
do you have any witnesses, or would you like the opportunity to testify?
Yes, I would like to testify, and I have a witness. Well,
So who
witness
are
I
you
can't get a
calling?
hold of right now. I'd like to call my husband, Kevin DeHart.
Okay, does he have another device or something he can?
I'm right,
He's right next to me. Is that what you want?
I'm right here.
Okay.
And
Okay.
please tell me if my window.
Can you raise your right hand, sir? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
lower your hand, state and spell your name for the record, please.
Kevin DeHart, D-E-H-A-R-T. The first name is K-E-V-I-N.
Go ahead, Ms. DeHart.
Okay, first of all,
No, sir, you can't
what?
just start talking. Ms. DeHart can ask you questions.
oh,
You're
I'm sorry.
the other witness. You can't just talk.
I'm sorry, I thought you said Mr. DeHart, not Mrs. DeHart. Were you in the car with me?
Yes, this is fantastic. Thank you, Ron, and thank you, old Squishy Gardner. Yeah, he found this. I'd never seen this call before, but this is great. This is great work.
In November 10th, 2021,
Yes, I was.
as I was driving, in your professional opinion, with over 33
I'm
years.
going to object to the comment about professional
police.
opinion, Your Honor, and we'll stipulate to the fact that he was present in the car. The officer already testified.
Yeah, I mean, in order to offer a professional opinion, you have to lay a foundation for that the person is an expert in an area, which she has no idea what to do with. Whatever. Just tell us what you observed. That you can testify to. You can ask him that.
Did that.
Sustained.
Okay, and did I do any illegal driving during that time?
No, you
Okay.
did not.
Okay, it's a totally improper question, but again, they're letting it go because it's just faster.
And at none, well, there would be none. So that would cover absolutely everything that was handled on that day, including the line markings that the, do you believe that the officer's statement about where all the line markings are on the road and where the dotted lines happen in the road and where the lane ends and the usage, does that include that all of that was done legally?
Yes, it was.
And do you believe that the officer has changed his story from the hearing that we were
I'm going to
in?
object again,
Oh,
Your
wait,
Honor.
that was
We're
what
talking
I
about
was talking
testimony
about.
and it-
I'm sorry. I just remembered
Sustained. Ms.
that.
DeHart, please
Yes.
move on from the informal hearing.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. So do you believe that the officer's testimony today is not accurate and not true to what he told us when we were pulled over?
Objection again, Your Honor. She's going back to the same thing that you just told her not to do.
You're going to get a lawyer.
Yeah, I think I need some representation.
This is,
Yeah,
I don't know how to handle it from now, Your Honor, because
You didn't know how to handle it from the beginning, my friend.
I think I've clearly,
was I?
well, yeah.
Are you in a through?
Do you
We've
have
all-
any? Do you have any?
We clearly stated that I was.
Ma'am,
my
it's not
driving
your
was
opportunity.
accurate, but-
Ma'am, you have to listen to me. It is not your opportunity to testify. You will have your opportunity. Do you have any further questions for Mr. DeHart?
I feel I've covered that. When we went to the courts and asked about an appeal, and we followed all these proceedings, and we were told that there would be an appeal, and that document.
There's an appeal. We've talked about it 50 times today. You're in the middle of your appeal. Carry on.
Documentation was delivered to the court.
Ms.
And they
DeHart,
accepted what
about
we had.
Ms. DeHart, do you have any questions about the November 20th?
November,
Mr. DeHart.
on November 10th?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
November 10th.
Yeah.
Do you have any further questions for Mr. DeHart about
So
November?
I'm going to go ahead and go along with you, and I'm going to say that there is nothing else at this time that I'm just all shooken. I'm totally shooken up. Okay. Totally shooken up because okay, I'll stop there to try to be more appropriate to you. I'm sorry.
So no further questions for Mr. DeHart, is that correct?
Thank you. Yes. No.
Mr.
further
Ojek, do you have any questions for Mr. DeHart?
No, I do not.
Ms. DeHart, would you like the opportunity to testify?
Yes.
Can you raise your right hand? Swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I swear.
Lower your hand, state and spell your name for the record, please.
Lisa DeHart. LISADEHART.
Go ahead, ma'am. You can tell what happened that day in your own words.
Apparently, art's a letter now.
That
I was
day.
pulled over by, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, stick to what happened that day, not about what happened at the formal hearing.
Thank you. So that day I was pulled over by Officer Belknap, and he gave me a ticket that was for impeding improper lane use, going forward in a right turn only lane, and that's why I was getting a ticket. And I've proven I went to the court with photographs that they made copies of and accepted on the court's behalf, which for some reason you do not have, which clearly proves that that is not correct. So that's all I have to say for now.
Mr. Ojek, do you have any cross-examination from Ms.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Ojek, do you have any further, I'm sorry, Ms. DeHart, do you have any further witnesses?
I would have a witness from the courts to show that I submitted evidence, but I don't have a way to contact them right now, so I don't know. Do you suggest anything on that?
I can't give you legal advice.
Okay. Then can I have more time to get that witness together that can find out what happened with the documentation that was left with the courts?
No. Mr. Ojek, do you have any closing statements?
That's the most rational thing she said in the entire thing. I want to try to get this. It's nonsense, of course, because she wants to get this photo into evidence and she didn't know how, whatever. But she asked for a continuance to figure out what she needs to do to get that evidence in. You're not going to get it under those circumstances, but it's a rational request. And the judge just gave it the no it deserves. But I will give her that's the first thought that she put together that made sense.
Just, the officer, this wasn't an accident. He was waiting there for a specific reason by two different phone calls. He gave her a break. The ticket speaks for itself. It's not written for improper lane use or anything else. It's written for impeding traffic. And maybe it was marginally impeding traffic because the car only had to slow down when they pulled in at last second. But that's impeding traffic. She got a break, but she was impeding traffic. That's all.
Do you have any closing statements, Ms. DeHart?
Your Honor, I'm very sorry that we have to take up your time on this because I think that you have not been told the truth in this case. So my closing statement would include that I wished the court proceedings worked and you had the paperwork in front of you that you need, and that the officer's story has changed in three different times. And I just don't know what else to say. I just would appreciate that you dismiss this and we can have our money returned, because as everyone knows, money is very tight these days. And living with an officer for 38 years, I appreciate and respect everything about the officers. I was the one that was insulted when he made comments about himself, because that is definitely not professional. And I guess to state it very clearly to you, I would like you to any of the complaints that he doesn't have, there's been information about there were complaints, but he has no evidence of that. And I clearly, again, state to you that I had my husband, an officer sitting next to me, and we talked all the way through about how I was driving. And I tried to explain, if I may, that on that particular day, I tried to explain also to the officer that there was a road rage that happened in Clinton, and I was scared because this guy was following me. I tried to explain that to the officer that day. In fact, the road rage vehicle that was, I'm just going to say road rage and not try to be dramatic about it for you. I know you can interpret that when that officer's.
Oh, yes. She's trying to reduce the drama on her appeal of her traffic ticket. Mm-hmm.
The road rage truck had me pulled over on.
By the way, it's an implicit admission. She's saying I was driving erratically because I felt scared and I was chased by somebody. It's a BS story to begin with, but it supports the notion that you weren't driving properly.
The truck went by hooping and hollering out the door. And I pointed it out to the officer. Maybe I should have asked the officer that question. I'm
They were hooping and hollering, Your Honor. I just want you to know that.
sorry I missed my opportunity to show him that was the car that was harassing me on the road. And, we were just trying to be away from that. Times are hard these days and things are very, very rough. We certainly don't need some kind of road rage out there. And I honestly feel confident telling you that I did not do any illegal driving. And I've already paid my fine. So there's, it's just a matter of you reversing. I thought it was an appeal.
Yeah, that's good. Tell the judge what her job is. Oh, I love the road rage thing too. There probably was someone actually chasing her because she's a bad driver and she was doing dumb stuff, and probably she probably did the same thing at the prior intersection, and somebody was upset.
So I don't quite understand. I didn't understand that it's a whole new court case, as you've explained to me now. So I don't feel prepared, and so in either case, I would have asked that you either, I don't know what I'm asking for, dismiss the ticket and realize that you could just dismiss the ticket or give me more time to gather what's the point in, I have to pick up that paper again. You already told me not to. What was the point of my doing that? Because, you can sit there and say, I don't have that in front of me. And I agree with you. That's not your responsibility to have that in front of you. But it is for the court officers that all work for you. And it's just not there. So they can get together. The officer can totally change his story. And there's just nothing I can do except to appeal to your sense of fair play.
That really bothers me. I know they hear it every day, but the officer didn't change his story. He testified consistently. He tried to give her a break. He tried to be nice to her, and she turns that on him every time because she's trying to weasel out of a ticket. It's despicable. It really is.
And I don't know what else to ask. If I've completed a statement, I guess I should just end there. And thank you for your time.
I would like to make a final comment, Your Honor.
I tip my fez to you.
I'm not going to go into about everything that happened before. There's a lot of things you just said, which I could really point out. I want to make two statements. What she provided to the court, if it had been provided to you, court staff would have been violating the rules, as they're not allowed to, she's not allowed to provide evidence ex parte to the court without providing it to the prosecutor too, and that would be done in trial. My second statement is regarding all the things she has said several times about Officer Belknap. I have decades and decades and decades of experience, and I actually know Officer Belknap very well, and I consider him one of the most professional and best officers I've ever had contact with. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Ojak.
Can I answer to that?
No, you can't. The way that it works, the prosecutor, because they're bringing the case forward, they get the last word because they have the broken proof.
Well, because...
No, ma'am, the hearing's
I got it.
There's no because.
After listening to the testimony from Officer Belknap, as well as the testimony from Kevin DeHart and Lisa DeHart, I wanted to address a couple things. There was a lot of conversation about a photo that
A number
that
seven.
Miss DeHart she submitted to the court. It is correct. It wouldn't have been appropriate for her to not also include the prosecutor in that communication. Nonetheless, it became clear through her own testimony of what this picture would have reflected. And from the officer's testimony, it doesn't sound like this picture had any relevance to what this impeding traffic ticket is about. So had it even been submitted, I'm not sure if it would have been appropriate to bring forward in this case, because what the picture seemed, what I believe, or what it seems that Ms. DeHart was saying that the picture was portraying had nothing to do with why she was pulled over. So I'm not sure that picture had any relevance. So I believe it wasn't actually submitted. Ma'am, you cannot speak.
I'm sorry. My
You
body
cannot
was moving.
speak. As far as the testimony, we did have testimony from Officer Belknap about what happened that day, what he witnessed. He was on the lookout based on the dispatch had given him some information about to be on a lookout for a vehicle, that there were some complaints about a vehicle. So he was certainly paying attention to what was happening at that intersection. He witnessed Miss DeHart's vehicle sort of force merge herself beyond where the lane had actually narrowed, despite there being two other signs indicating that the right lane was ending. And Officer Belknap also indicated that he witnessed the vehicle behind Miss DeHart's vehicle that she cut in front of had to slow down. After Miss Officer Belknap's testimony, there was no testimony offered from the other witnesses that testified about what exactly happened at that intersection and that merge. There was no explanation or alternative facts given to what may have happened at that intersection that perhaps Officer Belknap may have confused or may have missaw. There was just no testimony given about what happened at the intersection at all. I did find Officer Belknap's testimony believable, and I do find the prosecutor has met their burden to show that there was enough evidence, by preponderance of evidence, that Ms. DeHart had committed the civil infraction of impeding traffic, and I will find her responsible for that. Fines and costs were assessed previously, and they were set as a bond in this matter. So the court will apply the bond to the fines and costs.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And we are adjourned.
Well, there you have it. I mean, she's wrong on every level. We don't need to review it. I just had so much fun with that. Of course, all the credit goes to Old Squishy Gardner. I had never seen that before. He has 2 videos on it. That was 1 and 2 put together, and I even edited a little bit out. And he's got a lot of other good stuff. He's always finding new stuff. He actually started his channel because he used to funnel videos to me all the time, and I'm like, I can't do all of them, but they're really good. And so I just started a channel, and he's knocking out of the park. He's taking over the world. So everybody, thank you for coming out. I really enjoyed that one. It was it was too much fun. All right, I'll see you soon.